Hello and welcome back to Hope After. This podcast is for couples navigating the impact of pornography on their marriage, and today's episode centres on a question many couples eventually reach, though few know how to articulate. Who are we now? Not who were we before discovery, or the version of us that existed when everything felt simple, not even the hopeful, determined version from early recovery, but who we actually are, standing here after truth, repair, setbacks, conversations, tears, and the change that's happened. Now, if you're carrying affection and sadness at the same time, if you're grateful for progress, yet quietly aware that something has shifted, this episode is for you. Now, these conversations are here to give you language for moments that can feel disorienting. If you'd like structured guidance for this stage, the full program is linked in the show notes. For now, let's talk about love, loss, and the marriage you actually have. So many couples expect that once the crisis settles and the hard work has been done, relief will arrive like a reward. And sometimes it does, at least in part. Yet what often follows is something quieter, a heaviness that doesn't come from conflict, but from awareness, a sense that the landscape has changed and cannot be restored to its original shape. This is not disappointment with each other, it's recognition. You can be healing and still feel the weight of what was lost. You can be functioning well and still notice that something innocent has gone. You can look at your spouse with love and still feel the ache of what used to feel effortless. That tension doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. It means you're living honestly. Porn betrayal disrupts more than behaviour. It unsettles the assumptions that held the marriage steady. Many women realise they relied on a sense of safety they didn't consciously name until it was shaken. And many men recognise that the story they told themselves about their integrity was incomplete. Both may discover that the relationship they believed they were inhabiting was not the same relationship the other was experiencing. Grief emerges from that gap. You might mourn the ease that once existed between you. You might miss the version of trust that required no effort. You might feel sadness over the simplicity of believing you were fully known and fully aligned. And none of that cancels the love that remains. Grief does not equal regret. It simply acknowledges that something meaningful has changed. When couples avoid this grief, they often find themselves chasing a version of the past that no longer fits. When they allow it, something steadier can begin to form, not built on illusion, but on truth. Now, I remember saying to Jez one evening, "I love you, and I'm still sad." And it surprised me as much as it did you. I had assumed that if we were healing well, that the addiction was being addressed, that sadness would disappear. I didn't expect the two to sit side by side. And for a moment, I wondered whether my sadness meant I hadn't forgiven you properly, whether it signaled something was wrong. Jez, what did you hear when I said that?
Yeah, it's because I felt exactly the same most of the time. To see your face, I knew how you were feeling, and I kept thinking to myself, with the work that I'm putting in, is this actually working?
Yeah, what shifted for us was realizing that that sadness wasn't a verdict on the marriage. It was an acknowledgement of what had been taken. Grief didn't threaten love, it clarified it. Once that became permissible, there was less pretending. We no longer needed to perform optimism to prove we were okay. We could tell the truth about the loss and still choose each other. That honesty created more connection than forced positivity ever could. Betrayal shapes how couples see themselves. Men often wrestle with a fractured self-image. There can be shame about who they were, uncertainty about who they are becoming, and a quiet fear that failure might resurface. Even genuine change can feel fragile at first. Women frequently experience a shift in self-trust. Decisions once made instinctively now require thought. Intimacy may feel more layered, and confidence can fluctuate in ways that feel unfamiliar. And these changes do not signal that healing's failed. They reflect identity being reworked under pressure. Identity after betrayal is less naive and more conscious. That can feel unsettling, especially if you valued the ease that once characterized your relationship. Yet maturity often grows in precisely this soil. The goal is not to become who you were before, it's to become someone integrated, someone who has faced truth and remained present. Now, for couples of faith, this stage can feel spiritually complex. Christian language often emphasizes restoration, victory, redemption. Those themes are real and deeply hopeful, yet scripture also makes spaces for lament. The Psalms are filled with raw honesty, longing, sorrow, confusion expressed directly to God without being sanitized. Lament is not evidence of weak faith. It is faith refusing to deny reality. You can thank God for progress while grieving what was lost. You can believe in redemption while acknowledging that innocence has not returned. You can trust that transformation is possible while still carrying the memory of pain. Faith that cannot tolerate grief becomes brittle. Faith that makes room for lament becomes resilient, and resilient faith is what sustains marriages long after crisis has passed. And one of the hardest internal shifts is releasing the desire to go back, not because the past was perfect, but because it felt uncomplicated. There was comfort in not knowing what you now know. There was ease in assuming alignment without verifying it. That version of the marriage no longer exists. Trying to recreate it often leads to frustration. You may find yourselves attempting to manufacture the same spontaneity or unquestioning trust, only to discover it feels forced. Maturity invites a different question, not how to restore the old dynamic, but how to build something truthful from where you stand now. Letting go of the before is not settling for less. It's accepting that growth changes the terrain. The marriage you inhabit today may include clearer boundaries than you once had. Conversations might be slower, more deliberate, and trust may develop through evidence rather than assumption. Repair may happen more quickly after tension arises because you've learned not to leave wounds unattended. There may be less illusion and more intentionality. And this version of marriage may feel heavier at times. It requires awareness, it demands humility and asks for accountability, yet it can also be more authentic. Real intimacy does not depend on pretending that harm never occurred. It grows when both people are willing to remain present despite what they now know. Now, love after betrayal often feels different from early love. It may be less romanticized. It may involve clearer eyes. It may contain elements of caution that were absent before. This doesn't make it inferior. Love that has endured exposure and remained deliberate can be deeply grounded. It is chosen rather than assumed. It is sustained through action rather than momentum. You might find that affection feels steadier, even if it is less dramatic. You might discover that connection is quieter but more intentional. Love does not disappear because it changes form. Sometimes it becomes more substantial precisely because it's been tested. Now, this stage is not about achieving closure in a cinematic sense. Life rarely offers that kind of resolution. Instead, it invites orientation. Rather than asking, can we get back to who we were? You begin asking, how do we live well with what we now understand? That shift opens possibility. It allows you to carry both history and hope without denying either. It encourages forward movement rooted in clarity rather than nostalgia. You're not required to forget, you're invited to integrate. Now, if this episode has helped you recognize grief or gratitude you've been holding quietly, that does matter. The podcast, it offers language for this stage. The Full Hope After program provides structured support for integrating loss without allowing it to define the future. It honors both truth and hope without bypassing either. And inside this stage, we go deeper into grieving well, reshaping identity after betrayal, and building forward with intention rather than denial. There's no pressure. The details are in the show notes whenever you're ready.
Yeah, we didn't go back, but also we didn't fall apart. We learned how to love honestly with what was lost and what remained.
In the next episode, we'll step forward again and we'll talk about staying married after porn, what sustains it long term, and what quietly erodes it if left unattended. For now, allow grief its place. Choose love deliberately and trust that honesty makes room for something new.